Welcome to episode 30 of It's No Secret Podcast Live. We are your hosts, Teresa and Bianca Rose. Say hello, B.
Hello.
Welcome back. It's another week,
Another week.
another beautiful Wednesday.
We have someone missing.
We do. Oh, sorry. My bad. My volume was up. As you guys can see, Shari's not here today. Unfortunately, she's still dealing with some personal issues. Hopefully, you're doing good, girl. I'm sure she's probably peeking into our live streams at any given moment. But, we miss her, and hopefully, she'll be back with us next week as long as all goes well.
Yep.
But how you doing? You good?
I feel much better. Very good today, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What about you?
Very good.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
I was told at work that I looked unrested, which in a less professional way, they told me I looked like shit. So they were
Yes.
like, "Why don't you just go home and take a nap?" And I was like, "Okay, I will." And I much needed that because I feel better.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, I always feel like when people are like, "You look tired," I'm like, "Oh,
I'm
thanks for
like,
telling me I look like
"Wow,
shit."
I look like shit. Cool. Thank
Right.
you."
Oh, Jaded Contessa in our YouTube said, "Sending her nothing but highs." Exactly. Good
Exactly.
segue. Thank you, Nikita. Because as you guys know, in every episode, we do our highs and lows. Of course, we are going to start with our lows of the day, and I will go first today. For me, my low this week is seeing people that I love around me right now going through some things that I can't necessarily help them out of.
Mm,
That's difficult for me. As you guys know, Shari and I are very close, and so her dealing with some things gives me the best friend guilt because I'm half the country away
mm,
from her. So I feel like I can't, even though I can still be there for her emotionally, I wish that I could physically be there to help her with what she's going through. And then my husband, too, has been kind of dealing with some personal things. So, trying to be supportive of him as well. But it's my guilt, my friend guilt, my wife guilt, it all kind of plays in. So that's my low for this week. B, what's your low?
My low is I've been evaluating some things. I've been getting a little bit PTSD in like dating aspect. So
Mm,
yeah, I've been trying to I'm not a toxic person, and I'm not an insecure person. So I'm always trying to like rationalize my feelings or the situation. Um, and I'm kind of like in feeling like I'm in a box basically because I'm stuck between what I feel is valid and also if I don't, I'm too busy arguing with myself and not the person, you know?
right.
So I'm like, how can I turn that around? Because I feel like this is a familiar stage where I'm always talking to myself and
Hmm.
not to that person. And
Hmm.
so I feel like this is the point in like the talking phase where it kind of phases out. And I feel like I'm at that point with this person.
Hmm.
So yeah, been having conversations with myself. Yeah.
Step your game up, this person. No,
Mm.
just kidding.
But I mean, not to put it on them, but it's also like something that I'm struggling with, and that's confrontation, that's communication with a stranger. So
Right. I
that's
mean,
something I'm working on.
it's always an awkward phase at the beginning,
Yeah.
when you're getting to know people. I tell people, like, all the time, especially when I was single, like, I hated dating because it was weird. Like, I'd rather, like, hang out with guys I was actually friends with, and so it
Yeah.
was easier to transition, but, like, yeah, it's just weird and awkward.
Yeah.
I get it.
I get yeah. That's the problem that I'm dealing with. It's like, is it time? Can I bring this out? Like, it's not crazy, but in it That's my problem, is that does it come off as crazy or insecure if I'm asking you questions, if I'm asking you to be open or something. So I
See, I
feel like
don't
I've
think
been leaning on
so.
a bunch of coworkers for
Yeah.
that input, to be like everyone but the person directly. I don't know if you've noticed.
See, to me though, like, and maybe it's just because I'm older and, been through my own shit already, but, like, to me, it's like, if you have questions and you ask and they have a problem with you communicating, then that's not the person for you, because communication
Yeah.
is everything. Real quick, we've got some lows in the chat over here. So Jaded Countessa said, "My low is finding my first scorpion of the season in the
Ugh,
house. Fuck no.
no, thank
Burn the
you.
house down."
Yeah, I just realized my ring light's not even on.
Oh,
Hello.
oh, hey, look at
Ugh, maybe that contributed to my mood. How about that?
maybe, maybe. George Davis in our YouTube also shared his low. He said, "My low is I'm toxic as fuck. I acknowledge this. I do have an amazing heart, though. Hopeless romantic here." Aw, I
Love
I'm so I know George. He's basically my husband's brother, even though they're cousins, but that's his brother.
that.
I don't think he's toxic, but then again, there may be some sides of George
You
that I
never
don't know.
know.
No, just
What I
kidding.
mean, what even is toxic?
Right.
Toxic versus insecurity. Like,
Toxic to one person might be amazing to another.
mhm.
So, there's still hope for you, George. No, just kidding. Alright, let's, move on to our highs. So my high of the week, and Bianca's gonna laugh at me because as you guys know, reality TV is my guilty pleasure, and I have been hooked on this season of Love Island. I feel like the whole world is watching Love Island right now, except for Bianca.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so lost.
But the reason I made that my high is because one of the chicks that I really didn't like got the boot, so I was really happy.
Is it so it's a game?
So Love Island is essentially a bunch of singles, and
Uh-huh.
they get taken to an, island in Fiji, and they live in this house together, and essentially what they're trying to do is find love in the villa. But as the show goes on, there's bombshells, which are like new people that come in.
Hmm.
And then, like, they make it to where the numbers are uneven. People get voted out either by the cast or America, things like
Oh,
that.
shit.
So it's entertaining to say the least. But the goal is
Interesting.
at the end to be the couple that America loves the most, that has like the best connection, and they win $100,000. Yeah.
The things we do for love,
Or
or
money.
the things we do for money.
Or money, yeah. I cannot pronounce this name on YouTube. Do you wanna try to pronounce it?
No,
Uchiha.
sweet.
Sorry that we fucked up your name. They said, "Dating is fun. I've met so many cool people, even if it led to nothing." I'm glad somebody thinks it's fun because I sure don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't date very often. I don't talk to a lot of people. So, I think I go in with that mindset of I know that not everyone is for everyone.
Yeah.
So, to the ironic thing is that, oh, if everyone is just kind of open and upfront about everything, then it's like we don't even have to be romantically involved. We could just be friends. If it's chill enough,
Right.
just not that, that romantic attraction, then I mean it's still we can still be cool, like whatever.
Yeah.
But
Um,
nobody gives each other that chance. It's an all or nothing kind of mindset.
a
So
lot of times, yeah. So, yeah, give people a chance. I think I gave people too many chances sometimes, though. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But what was your high, B?
My high was that I know after last week's episode, we kind of focused on the topic of feeling burned out. And that's because we were all feeling that way. So I actually took an extra day off of work and I completely disconnected
Mm.
from my phone and kind of just did things around the house that made me happy, small things, made tea, did plant. I made more plant babies. If you
Of
know, you know.
course, of course. That is like your therapy now.
It is.
That's good
Yeah.
though, it's good to have an outlet. Shisui said, I take every first date to Chili's. Their reaction tells me everything I need to know. And then Jada Contessa said, we love Chili's.
I love me some Chili's. Shout out to our waiter. He's probably listening right now.
Yeah, I think he's in our Instagram over here, Topher Chili's. Shout out to him.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh, man. But I'm glad you got to have, like, a day to yourself to just disconnect and kind of
Very much
recharge.
needed.
Yeah.
I took everyone's advice. I was like, "You know what? I don't call in enough.
Yeah,
I didn't
reward
call in. I
yourself.
did it."
She's like, "I'm too responsible to call
I
in."
am too responsible, and I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize for that, girl. Oh, man. All right, so today, for today's episode, we are going to be diving into the messy, beautiful, confusing world of personal growth and what it actually really looks like, not, the social media versions and things like that. So the nitty-gritty of what
Mm.
personal growth really is. Topher just said in the chat, hello. Topher Chili's. So I guess we can start it off with just the basic question on personal growth. And again, for all of you guys watching on our YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook Live, make sure you guys comment in the chat and share your stories as well. But the question I want to ask everybody is, how do you think you have changed over the years?
So, for me personally, I get told a lot that I act older than how old I actually am.
You're an
I'm
old soul.
yeah, I am an old
Yeah.
soul. I am mature for my age and
Mhm.
have always been like that. Even from the early 20s, people thought I just carried myself with an older mindset. And I think that has continued to be the same aspect for me. My growth has basically expanded my knowledge and kind of compassion for myself and others.
Mm.
I think I've
Mhm.
grown more mentally in the past couple of years.
Yeah. So you feel like it's been a more recent growth than anything else?
Very much so.
Okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's fair.
What about
Uh,
you, T?
for me, I think, as you guys know, I'm in my 40s now. And I had a son at 20. So I kind of had to grow up pretty early on in life, just to be a mom and be an adult when I was still trying to figure myself out. So I feel like at certain points in life, I had difficulty with growth, but throughout that and eventually in leading to where I am now, I think I've grown away from needing any type of like approval or validation
Validation.
from other people. Um, I've learned to create boundaries, which I freely talk about on this show on a regular basis. Um, and I've learned to let go of people that aren't necessarily good for me,
Mm.
without feeling guilty about it, really. So I don't know, have a lot of growth in those aspects.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of my growth too is what I like to call like silent growth. So it's
Mhm.
more so like remaining calm in situations, learning to walk away from the things that don't serve me well, not responding. Sometimes silence is an answer.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been a big part of all of my growth.
I think, to that point too, one of the areas that I've grown is I've learned to play devil's advocate, for other people's behalf, basically. So I
Mhm.
like I said, like I know that I jump to conclusions. I have initial feelings, and they're all valid. So I think that one part is validating my feelings, myself, acknowledging them, and then being able to try to see another perspective so I can give myself that chance. I've done a lot of silent growing just by acknowledging and validating what I feel,
Mhm.
and then also trying to advocate for someone else on their behalf and trying to um, see if my point of view is accurate. Sometimes I can talk myself out of my own initial like thoughts. I'm like, oh no, actually, they might have a point, or maybe I was wrong on this.
Mhm. Taking accountability is a big part of growth, right?
Mm,
Is figuring out what do you need to not necessarily always change, but what are the things that you need to realize about
yeah.
yourself? To that point, George in our YouTube said, I've changed by acknowledging flaws and working on personal development, open to trying new things. Self discovery has made me stronger than I could have ever fathomed. Yes,
I love that.
self-discovery is the personal growth, and so it's amazing that you've been able to do that, and growth isn't, like, linear, right? A lot of people
Mm.
feel like growth is, like, a one direction, right? We have to keep going up, we have to, but, like, to me, growth, like, zigzags, and
Yeah.
revisit different parts that you might have struggled with before, in different periods of your life. So it's like sometimes it goes full circle. Um, George also said, being a product of my environment is not an end all be all. Perspective is everything. Meditation, self love, awareness, and personal accountability is my mantra. Look at
Okay,
you.
George.
Okay, grown man. Love it. No, that's really amazing. Like, I think the part that stood out to me the most is perspective is everything.
Mm,
Because that ties into, like, just my own personal growth journey of not needing that validation from people. Like,
mhm.
it ties into that pretty well.
I
But
think
oh,
to
go ahead.
your point as well, like it's growth is not, a linear thing, but it's not a one-off either. Like it's not just mental growth. It's,
Mhm.
there are other areas or aspects in life and ways that you can grow. I mean, there's spiritually, there's financially, there like different types of change for the better. So, I mean, we're not just talking about, hey, self love. We're talking about, hey, I've moved up in life. I'm
Yes.
in a different tax bracket than I was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
I've found God, now than I didn't then, and it's changed my perspective. So you've grown, spiritually. Just there are different types of growth. So we kind of want to recognize that there are different types of growth to
What
experience.
what of those other types of growth do you feel like you've experienced?
Recently would be the financial growth.
Mhm.
Um, I worked so hard to get to where I am now. And there was a phase in my life, literally a year ago where I had set myself this goal to achieve that, the promotion that I got at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
I had set my mind to it. And, lucky me, I achieved that goal, but it did come at some cost. It did. Some of my friends are not the same. My
Mm.
relationship with some of my family is not the same. Like it was a good thing for me, but I did lose some things along the way. I mean, and I know you can say like, "Oh, if you lost it, did you ever really have it?" Or, if you lost it, it wasn't meant to be. But it was still a
Still a
feeling and
loss.
emotional impact that
Yeah.
it had on me because, you know, I I can think of, in one specific situation where my one of my family members just had a conversation and was like, "You were never around. You didn't do this. You didn't do that." And I broke down in tears. We had this conversation a day before I'm supposed to have this big interview for the promotion. It was the day
Mm.
before that, and I'm trying to hype myself up. And they felt like that was the perfect time to lay it on me that I am not present. I'm not around. I only do this, and that. And I basically was pleading. I'm like, "I am trying, like,
To get my shit
to
together
get my shit
right now,
together. Like, it's
yeah.
not a bad thing that I'm putting myself first, that I'm prioritizing, that I'm trying to work towards a goal. But if you see it that I'm not serving you that I in the way that I used to, then, you know, once I reach this goal, it's not gonna be the same. I'm not reverting back to, always being available. Like, no,
Mhm.
want to continue growing. So things are gonna continuously evolve. And that was a very, very hard conversation to have, especially from a close family member.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, stuff like that pisses me off because, like, when you love someone, you have to understand things from their perspective too.
Mhm.
It's like everyone has their own life, everyone has their own shit, everyone needs their own time. That's why I think, like, me and Shari have joked around on the show, like, well, we only have like 3 friends, really, right? Like, we can count our friends in one hand or whatever the joke might be, right? But it's very true because the people that I have kept long-term friendships with are the people that understand that, hey, I might not talk to you for a couple months, but when we pick
Mhm.
up the phone and talk to each other or when we see each other, it's going to be like if we never lost any time.
Mhm.
And those are the people that I like having around me because, yes, as you evolve, your circle does tend to shrink. Um, but it doesn't mean that, like, we're trying to say that we're better than these people or anything like that. It just means that you're becoming better for you.
Mhm.
And if people can't understand that, then it's okay to let go of those people because you're loving yourself in the process. Like,
Yeah. And I think with like growing for me personally, the financial growth that I had has kind of stimulated the emotional and mental growth
mhm,
as a reaction to that.
yeah.
So it was kind of like a chain reaction to the types of growth that I've been experiencing the last like couple of years. Like I said, because some of the family members I was so close with now make I don't want to say rude comments, but they make like backhanded compliments where it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, she's got money. Why does she need help with this? Why?" I jokingly in a family group message, I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm moving to a new place. Who wants to, I'll accept $25 gift cards for groceries."
That's
And one of
right.
my cousins was like, "Don't you make like more money than anybody?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." Like,
Right.
"Don't you, have a two-income household? That
Right.
means I'm working harder than you. I'm working twice as hard to make what you got." Like,
Right.
I'm still putting in work,
Mhm.
but help is still appreciated, like, things like that. So,
Yeah.
the perspective that they've have of me and me having of them has kinda shifted, and you can tell, um, that, that's just another, a phase of growing, just some of the things that kinda come with it.
Yeah. No, definitely. Real quick, just to catch us up on some comments over here, Jaded Countessa on our YouTube said, I think that loss is a part of growth. You can no longer fit in the small, old, or incorrect spaces. Yeah, it is a part of growth. Whatever loss may mean,
Yeah.
to you. We also got another comment from Victoria watching on our Facebook Live.
Hey,
She said,
Victoria.
this past year, I learned that some people will not support that my son comes before them. And that's something I learned I'm not willing to apologize for.
That
Bravo. As a fellow mommy, those babies come first. I don't give a damn who you are. Okay.
Mhm.
And as a previously single mom, I've had a lot of situations where I was, quote unquote, dating someone that I really liked. And, you know, it because of
Yeah.
interactions with my children, peace out, homie. Like,
Yeah, then some people just that assumed entitlement to you, um, can put you in a box, can
mm,
kinda keep you from
mhm.
growing, can kinda keep you in that same situation, and it doesn't get any better. In fact, it becomes a hurting, situation. It may not be to you, but to someone else, such as a child. Um, that that can also just hinder
Yeah,
that.
for sure. Going back to the zigzag thing, because you reminded me of that when you're talking about like financial growth or whatever. For
Mhm.
me, for my financial growth journey, it has definitely been a zigzag. Like I was, doing jobs that were paying me way more than what I make even now. And to have started over. Because I've shared in previous episodes that, like, I was laid off from a job due to a merger and, um, decided that I didn't wanna continue in that same industry, and so I legit had to start my career from scratch and work my way up, and I'm still not making what I used to make, and so it's like it's an ongoing battle, but, like, for me with the zigzag, because sometimes it's really easy to feel like how I said, like you're starting over, you've taken steps
Mhm.
backwards instead of forward. But I'm trying really hard not to see it that way and just see it as like I'm just revisiting an old challenge that I've faced before,
Exactly.
with different tools.
And even then, you can have, like, that lateral growth too, where it's like, I'm not starting over because I have this
Mhm.
experience with this new
Yeah.
situation. So it's not even that you are starting over again.
No.
It's just a different situation, but you have more experience
Yep.
than before. You have more reference than you did before. So, I mean, with to George's point earlier, perspection is a big thing for growth. Giving yourself that validation, being humble enough to give you um, just that realization of
Yeah.
yourself. Acknowledge your accomplishments that you've had so far. Sometimes those setbacks, might feel like you're starting all over again, but just mentally having to remind yourself is easier said than
Absolutely.
done, right?
Absolutely. Especially when you're living in it. Like, when you're in it,
Yes.
it's so difficult to give yourself those positive pep talks, like, it's always after the fact that when you're reflecting that you're like, "Oh, well, but this was a good thing." But it's like, yeah, because you went through it
Yeah.
already, but while you're in the midst of it all, it's difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel for sure.
Very much so.
Um, what would you say from a personal growth perspective was, like, the most painful but most necessary lesson that you've learned? And again, for those of you guys watching, share in the chat. Most painful but necessary lesson that you've learned.
Giving myself a
Mm,
chance. I think that even if it's giving yourself space to have that
mhm.
growth, I think giving yourself the chance to do it is a big
Yeah,
thing. Most people are content or even fearful of changing the environment. They can be aware of it as much as you want. Like you can be aware that you are an addict and you're putting yourself in danger, but if you don't make that change, if you don't give yourself that opportunity to do anything, then that situation's never going to
mhm.
change. So I think that right there is my
That
big
action
thing.
behind it. Nice.
Mhm.
Uh,
What
for
about you?
me, I think it's 2 major ones that I've learned throughout my life that I would say were probably the most painful but necessary. The first one I will
Mhm.
say is that, not to expect me out of other people.
Yeah.
Um, I had a bad habit of doing that a lot when I was younger, is and that kinda led to some of the people that I gave multiple chances to. Was because it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, if I was in this situation, this is what I would do, and so let me give them an opportunity to do that." Um, but they're not me, and that's not to say, like, I'm better or worse or anything like that. It's just people's mindsets are just different, and so that was a tough one for me, and then the other one as far as personal growth that was probably the most painful one was that, um family doesn't always mean support. And that one was really hard for me because I grew up in a very Mexican household where everything was about family, family over everything. That's how it always was. That's how it still is. in my family. Um, but I had to realize and set a lot of boundaries with family members because they were either what I considered to be toxic for me, or
Mm.
they were what I like to call fake supporters, where, they encourage you, but then you get like that sideways ass compliment when you achieve something, or, anything like that.
Kinda like how what I
Yeah,
experienced in the past
yeah.
year. And mind you, those 2 different experiences are from 2 different family
Wow.
members. So, it's the fact that, like, it's more people than I thought, who I assumed were genuine supporters are just
Yeah.
not. And it sucks because it's like, I did not know that you had I don't wanna say ill intentions, but I don't know if you were praying for my downfall or if is it because I overexceeded your lifestyle or, I made a change that doesn't fit you that I'm
It's their
bad.
own
Like, what
insecurities most of the time,
yeah.
I think.
So it's kind of like changing that perspective too. It's like, well, how do y'all see me? Because I didn't have a problem with y'all. To me, I am bettering myself. I didn't know that affected you so negatively.
Right. Like, shouldn't you be happy for me? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, like, yeah, I
And you
have
know
a
what?
difficult time with that.
Yeah, but I wanna bring back to the point that you said that what you said is, "I can't expect me out of other people." I kinda wanna disagree with that a
Okay.
little bit because I'm not to say that I'm a better person, but I'm a good person, I'm a good
Mhm.
enough person, and I feel like if you're going through that, or if I was going through that, I wouldn't do this to you, right? I wouldn't do what you did to me. But I also have friends who also going through their things did not do what you did
Mhm.
either. So they're not me, but they still took me into
Yeah.
consideration. That person just did not. So I can expect me or at least the decency of a person out of
Yeah,
someone. That's the
for
part that I
sure.
expect. I'm not expecting that I go above and
Mhm.
beyond, but the decency of our, relationship or what I thought it was, I should expect some type of reciprocated
Mhm.
consideration.
No, you're right.
So in a way, I want to disagree with that.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's being a good person because I mean, family, dating, growth. I mean, if he wanted to, he would,
Mhm.
right?
We've been saying
So,
that
I
to you a
mean,
lot
it's
this week.
I know. We're gonna dedicate a whole episode to if he wanted to,
Right.
he would, and that's just not even dating perspective,
Mhm.
that's just
Yeah.
relationships because, I mean, even my past, like, my roommates beforehand, this is very much where I wouldn't do that to
Mm.
them,
Mhm.
and my current friends now are not doing that to me. So it's literally that person
Yeah.
specifically. I can't expect decency out of someone.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just don't expect people to think the way I think. You know what I mean? Like, the
Mm,
decency, the morals, the ethical type stuff, absolutely, right? There's a bar. But just, like, the thought process behind certain things, like, I
mm,
feel like because 'cause I'm very, open-minded to people being different, right? But I
mm,
feel like a lot of people don't have that same mentality, like, they expect people to be like them, which is why I say, like, I can't expect me out of everyone. I have to be open-minded. I have to understand people are different. People have different priorities. Some people have different values, and that's
mhm,
okay. But if that means that I don't need you here, then I don't need you here, like
mm,
that kind of thing. Real quick, Jada Countessa has a great comment in our YouTube. She said, being uncomfortable isn't always a bad thing. Growing pains are part of the process. I could not agree more. I actually feel like in the times where we are uncomfortable or probably the most uncomfortable, those moments have led to like major breakthroughs for me
mm.
at least, and like have provided more clarity. I feel like if it doesn't make me a little bit uncomfortable, am I really growing? is kind of how I
Mm.
see it. What about you, B?
Well, I was kind of thinking back to what you said that with growing, you kind of sometimes suffer in silence. It's not a lot of the struggles that people are
Mhm.
aware of. It almost made me think that growing can also feel very
It
lonely
can.
too. Because there's some things that you wanna share and lean on with people, but a lot of the stuff that you struggle with is a lot of internal things, um, and it could feel very
Yeah.
lonely. It's like, I can't no one else can push me, out of my comfort zone
Mhm.
but me. They can encourage me, fantastic, but I have to be the one to do it. So whenever you're sitting in your just sitting by yourself and kind of thinking back into this, for me, sometimes I've said it before, I'm like, "It feels
Yeah.
lonely at the top."
Yeah, a lot of people say that, right? That it's lonely at the top.
Mm,
It's literally, you know, what people high in food chains, as far as, like, businesses and things like that go, say all the time, but there's a reason for that. Um,
mhm,
it is a little lonely in those situations, but that's why, that's where a sense of community and can come into play, right? Is to have
mhm.
support systems as you're going through the growth. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to share the process with them, but just having people to kind of lean on in harder moments or having outlets and things like that. Um, it's difficult for me personally to involve other people in my growth. I have very, very much my entire life been I'm going to deal with this on my own. I've had plenty of moments where I'm like I seclude myself and I isolate and drown in my thoughts as I'm going through my process. Is that the most healthy thing in the world? Probably not. Probably not, especially because I discourage people that I love from doing that.
It's
It
easier said
is
than
though.
done. Do as I say, not as
Exactly.
I do.
Thank you.
Because what I say is I've already reflected what I did, and now I'm gonna pass that message
Exactly.
on to you.
Learn from me, learn from my mistakes.
Yeah.
No, but it's definitely something I've struggled with is that I do tend to isolate when I'm deep in some type of, shit that I might be going through.
Yeah.
Um, have you ever felt like you had to break up with a version of yourself?
All the
Yeah?
goddamn time. And no, I feel like anytime that I try to play the devil's advocate, that is the new me breaking up with my
Mm,
old self, because my old self would wanna sit in the feelings that I initially felt, and that is, that was my only, first and last opinion or feeling or whatever. So I think anytime that I try to play devil's advocate, that's when I'm actively, like, breaking up with my
mm.
past self, is trying to see both sides. I mean, and sometimes, again, I'll still agree with
Right.
myself. I was like, "You know what? I said
Yeah.
what I said." And I'm like, "You know what? This past me still stays with me. This
Yeah.
is it. Maybe next situation I'll reevaluate and that might be different, but, um, I feel constantly there's not one specific point that I have broken up with my past self, because I feel like I am changing in as situations
Yeah.
arise. I'm kind of remodeling room by room as I go to
Yeah.
them. Um, so I feel like I break up with myself little by little
Yeah.
every single time.
No, I have to agree with you. And I don't even know if breakup is the right term to use for that, but, like, I've definitely had moments in my life where I was like, "Okay, I need to let that old version of me go." Or this aspect of me go, not necessarily me as a whole, right?
Mm,
But, like, for example, like, just when I had a kid or finding out I was pregnant the first time, like, that you definitely gotta break up with with some old habits, right? Don't get me wrong, I still lived a very full, adventurous life even as a mom, and then, like, going into marriage, I had to break up with
mhm.
an old version of myself, and, it's like but breakup always has a very negative connotation to it, but in this case, like, those were, to me, in my mind and in my eyes, good breakups. Those
You were
Yes, it was
evolving.
part of my evolution, and it made me better. But I feel like, even with that said, I've never fully let go of any version of myself because I feel like these little versions of me are what they're like Legos. I put them together and it made me who I am now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
now I sound like I have, like, 50 personalities, but I don't, guys. I know,
Okay,
right?
split.
I was literally thinking of that movie too.
But I mean, it's true because, like, yes, you evolve, you acknowledge that anytime I love when someone says, "You know what? The old me would have done this." And it's like, the old you is
Mhm.
still you. Because if you were that person once, you can be that
Mhm.
person again. It's maybe tucked away, it might be hidden in a vault, like, she may not be needed right now, but she's still there. I feel like you can never actually, completely let go of that past. As long as you can reference it, you know that you can still
Yes,
be
'cause
it.
I'm
I think that's that little reminder. It's like, "Oh, old me can still come out. She can still
yes,
play."
and it's usually in a threatening way. No, but seriously, like, I mean, me, when I was younger, I've always been kinda calm, a little mellow, more mellow than some of my friends, but I always had that side of me that was not afraid to pop off if I needed to. And so I think she's there. I just keep her deep, deep, deep down. It takes a lot to get her out of me now compared to before. Um, and that's growth.
And that's so funny because old me what was very passive
Really?
aggressive, would very much keep
Oh.
my mouth shut, would very much like, "I don't agree, but I'll do it anyways," and this
Mm,
and that. New me is aggressive
yeah,
aggressive. New me is assertive. Let's put that in a
yeah.
positive light.
Was that
Um, yeah, that's crazy how you're like, "No, old me's gonna pop off." I'm like, "No, new me,
mm,
right now me will pop off. Old me would keep my mouth
no,
shut." And I sometimes need to be old
no.
me.
New me is
But
calmer.
I'll learn as that happens, as I reflect after the
No,
fact. That I was like, I probably should have kept my
new
mouth shut."
me is the calmer version of Teresa for sure. Jada Contessa had another comment on our YouTube. She said, "Is it coming from a place of not wanting to jinx it or just the strong person persona?" There it is again, right? My little strong person
Mm,
persona. It might be a combination of both if I'm being completely honest. But yes, that strong person persona is something I still struggle with a lot. It's still part of my
yeah.
growth journey. I'm still working on that, but in a lot of cases, I feel like I have to be, so it just depends.
Yeah, but also when you are evolving and you are going through those changes in life, you're also, to our point earlier, like the friends and family relationships start shifting. So then you start looking to see what is a community that I can lean on that is also familiar with the changes that I'm
Mm,
going through. And so I feel like that strong person persona is like, do you have that community that you feel that you can talk to them and they'll understand what that change is like. So that way you're not, venting to people who would not understand. Or, in some case, if I'm trying to be vulnerable and tell you of my struggles right now, to someone, it might seem like I'm showing
yeah.
off, like just perspective in the relationships. It's just finding that new community that fits that era of that
I'll be
growth.
honest with you, that's probably why I've been podcasting for so long,
Mm.
because podcasting with my friends, I always say, is like my form of therapy, but it does bring a sense of community in because your viewers, the people that listen and watch and subscribe to your show or whatever, are usually people that are supporting what you have going on, right? I think it's not until you become
Mhm.
like real, real big that you start getting all the haters and stuff involved. But like,
Master bad haters.
but like It's definitely a reason why I do this is, for that sense of community because I am so keep this to myself. Like, I don't know what it
Mhm.
is about being here that allows me the space to just, you know what? There's got to be people out there that might hear this that will relate
Yeah.
to what I'm going through right now. So,
Mhm. I think to that point too, with similar to why I got into the podcasting thing is I think this show, our previous podcast or my previous podcast, the whole point of it was to find that
mhm.
community, um, to emphasize a safe space of
Yeah.
vulnerability. Like I'm trying to be transparent of the situations that I'm going through because one, I know I'm not going through it
Mhm.
alone. I might need to be reminded of that, and someone might need to be reached out and told that too. So this is that community that we are creating. Oh my god, we
We
created a
are.
community.
Look at us. Look at us. Jada Countessa has another comment on our YouTube. She said, "It can be a vulnerable place, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly." Yeah. Sometimes that goes back to the
Mm,
whole you gotta be uncomfortable to kinda get through it sometimes. That's like a perfect analogy for that. Um,
yeah. Are caterpillars asleep when they're in the cocoon? Do they hibernate? Do they know that they're changing? Like, I know that they're gonna
you
change when
just
they go
asked me
into
like
it, but
5
are they
questions in one sentence.
I'm sorry. I had all these questions all at once. I was like, I wonder if the, like, caterpillar knows it's like, "Okay, I gotta do this so I can change," but are they aware of the process that happens? Or do they just wake up and be like, "Dang, that was
Wake up and
easy," and y'all
stretch.
they kinda, like, anesthetically put they were, like, anesthetically gone through the whole thing, weren't even aware of their
I have no
changes?
idea. Honestly, I really
I'm
hope they're
sorry.
hibernating.
Somebody Google that.
I really hope they're hibernating.
I
'Cause
really
I
hope
feel
so too.
like they're just suffocating in their little cocoon, like
Yeah, that's what I'm
torture.
saying. I'm like, do they know? They're like, "Oh, this is the phase. I'm growing my wings. My
Does it
shit's
hurt?
shedding." I really don't know what happens in
Oh,
that cocoon. So, Nat Geo, please explain that to me.
does it hurt? No, just kidding.
Like, yeah, does it hurt? Are you
Right.
in pain? Do
Oh,
you wanna talk
man, we
about
just
it?
had a major squirrel moment. But yes, it's true though. It's true. Got another comment. Girl, go listen to the Stuff You Should Know podcast about metamorphosis. It is wild. She would. She would. Another question that I was curious to ask you, B, was what advice would your current self give your past self, like through one of those hard times that you were going through?
I think going back to what I said, giving yourself space from everything. Sometimes you need to take that step back to look at a bigger
Mhm,
picture. Sometimes you need to take a step back to know what steps to
mhm.
take or that are needed to take. You can want to grow all you want, but if there's no plan, if you don't see the bigger picture, then you can't see the steps that you need to take in front of you. I think that would be my thing.
Yeah. Mm. I don't even know what I would tell myself. I think I would remind myself that it's okay to not be okay. Because I did go through those phases where, mind you, nobody knew I needed validation because I never let it be known. But internally, it just felt good. You know what I mean? Like to get that validation.
Mm,
And so when I wasn't okay and I was going through things, um, I try to mask it a lot. And I think that hurt me more than it helped me in certain situations that I've gone through. And so I think that's the best advice that I would give myself is that, like, it's okay to not be okay. Like, you don't have to be
mhm,
strong all the time. You don't have to wear a mask just so people think you're okay. Um, you can feel it, like, live in it, breathe it, let it out because sometimes we hold on to it and it just starts to pile up until, like, it just fucking explodes. And,
yeah,
I don't wanna get to those points anymore. Yeah.
yeah. I think for me, um, kind of going back to what I said is like keeping that big picture in mind. it keeps you realistic of your goals, your limitations
Mm.
even, because growth is a process, and you can say, "Oh, just take one step at a time." It would help to know how many fucking steps
How many
you
do I have
have to take,
left?
you know? Like, are you yeah, I'm like, "Are you going up a flight of stairs, or are you trying to climb the Great Wall
Right.
of China?" Like, it to take that step back and realize, like, "Is this achievable? Is it attainable? Is this realistic for me? Should I
That's that
reevaluate?
perspective.
How is this something that I wanna commit to
Yeah,
this change? Is that going to
yeah,
benefit me? Then how can I get there?" Just keeping that broad spec in mind and just keep reevaluating because you may, you may start off very strong, but then you start gassing yourself out and feel like the growth is not you're not seeing the progression
mhm,
of the growth. Someone else might, you might need to validate yourself, but you might also need to hear from someone else to
mhm.
see it or believe it. So just always reevaluate, and just know that growth is you can grow in more ways than
Yes.
one.
That part right
Right
there.
there. Also, I did see Shari's. She's
Oh,
watching
hey,
us. Hey, baby
Shari.
girl.
Jaded Countessa put her advice to her younger self. She said, I would say that this moment is not forever. Both the bad ones and the good ones will pass. Learn from both and enjoy the good ones while they're here. That's great advice. Ooh, that's another thing. Be present. Don't
Yeah,
allow a temporary issue to take away your joy because there's still things
that.
happening in the here and now that are worth being
Mhm.
happy about. Oh, she said, "Hi, love you, ladies." Oh,
Love you.
yeah, like be in the here, be in the now, be present because it does make a difference and it helps you get through difficult
Yeah.
situations.
Celebrate the small
Yes.
wins. Growth is growth.
Yes. Um, and also like just to give advice to anyone out there, reinvention, growth, all of that stuff, that can happen at any age. Like,
Exactly. Say that
yes, like
louder.
I feel like I'm growing every day. I don't care about how old I am. Like, and I still have lots of room to grow. And so, it's never too late to change careers or start therapy if that's something you need for your personal growth. You know, have a mindset shift, or if you want to reinvent your identity and who you're becoming as a person. Like, I don't think there's a limitation when it comes to age for any of
Mhm.
that. Do you have any other bits of advice? Because we're pretty much at the top of the hour already.
I didn't talk about this before, but you mentioned, don't be afraid to make that change at any phase of your life, career changes, mental, like anything like that. Um, do we want to mention that next week we have a
Yes,
guest star? So people have something to look
yeah,
forward
so
to?
next week, we are gonna have a guest for you guys on the show. Her name is Jessica. She is the owner and founder of a petite clothing line called East on Rodeo. And she was a corporate girl who decided to start over and start her own business and work for herself and become an entrepreneur. And so we are going to have her on here to talk about that and a couple other things next week. So make sure you guys tune in for sure.
But I feel like that's a
Yeah.
good segue because talking about growth, we're gonna have a special guest next week that has gone through this career-wise. And we can even bring back this topic and how she, use what advice she has for
Yes.
us.
She
Shari,
said,
is her advice,
fuck it.
"Fuck it."
Yes. Before we go,
Um,
yeah,
last
there's
one.
a
Yeah,
question
Jada
from Jada
Contessa.
Contessa. Do you all have any growth goals that you feel comfortable to share or comfy to share? I
You wanna go?
have to think about this one. Growth goals. I just honestly, I don't think it's anything in particular. I just I just want to strive to be the best version of myself. What that looks like in different points of my life may change, but I just want to strive to be the best version of myself that I can give, not just for me, but for my kids and my husband and, my little family. Because when we're going through it, they all go through it, unfortunately. So, yeah, I just want to be the best version of myself. What about you, Bianca?
If I had to pick a specific area that I'd want to grow in, it's letting myself be more vulnerable.
Mm.
I feel like I kinda said this on, on a conversation that I had with the coworkers that, going back to dating, I'm like, I have been on my own for the longest time that I'm now, like, actively dating or, talking to people, learning how to be vulnerable. I've been on my own for so long. Now it's gonna learn how to like transition to that vulnerability and let myself feel that. And I know to feel vulnerable, you have to feel
Yeah,
safe. So um, I struggle with that more internally than people
that's
realize.
very
So that's something
yeah,
that I want to
that's
work on.
interesting to hear you say that, and I'm really glad that you shared that, because I think from the outside looking in, I would have never thought that that was something that you weren't good at, if that makes sense, because, like,
Mhm.
with your friends and even your colleagues, you you're very vulnerable. Like, even on this show, you've been very vulnerable. You've opened up and shared things, and we've fucking cried on here, like, so it's like to hear you say, like, "Hey, there's still aspects of my life," dating in this case, right, where I'm not very vulnerable and
Because if you think about it, on the podcast, at work, in front of friends, I'm vulnerable in front of friends and in front of here. I can be vulnerable in an audience because I'm finding my community with that
Mhm.
vulnerability. Dating, I have to be vulnerable one-on-one, and that's a more intimate thing that I have not experienced and have experienced. So that's still new and uncomfortable territory for me to be vulnerable with a single
Yeah.
person.
Well, I hope it does get better for you, because I think you're an amazing human being, and
Say that louder.
she's an amazing human being. No, I really do, and I'm not just saying that. Like, I think you are such a well-rounded individual, and you have so much to offer. Um, but I think now hearing you say that you may be the one getting in your own way when it comes to, like, the relationship dating side of life. And
Mhm.
so I do hope that you can get to a point where you feel safe enough with someone to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
because these people are missing out right now.
God damn right they are.
All right, with that said, we are at the top of the hour. So if you guys out there, well, before we close out, thank you guys for watching us. I should probably say thank you first.
Yeah, there was a lot of chat in the
Yes.
comments, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Thank you
Yes.
guys.
Ashari said, fuck it. But for those of you guys who aren't following us on all our platforms, let them know how they can find us.
You can help us grow
Or following.
by liking, following, and subscribing to us on our social media. That's YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at It's No Secret Podcast, and TikTok as well at It's No Secret Podcast Live. And if you can't join us for our live stream every Wednesday night, then you can definitely listen to us every Sunday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yay. Girl, you're like a pro now.
Thank you. We're
We're growing.
growing.
We're growing. All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much for joining us. And remember, it's no
It's
secret.
no secret.
Bye. Fuck it. Fuck it.
Bye.
Fuck it.